Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Isaac. I'm a content creator based in Toronto, and this is my YouTube portfolio that I just started building a couple years ago, mostly because I wanted to build something in the open because I had a lot of people who used to ask me questions about, the stock market and all that. So I decided to make a portfolio on YouTube, just openly, answering questions where I can. And it turns out that people started, getting a bit more interested in this than I would. In fact, I've totally forgotten about this. Not totally, but I've not actively been investing in this throughout this year, mostly because I moved countries and I'm just settling in. And, this past few months have been tough, like buying new stuff for a house and all that stuff. But yeah, back to this though. So I had made a video in January about my plans for 2026, right? So I listed some things I wanted to buy. I came up with some units and some quantities and all that. Very strategic stuff, actually. And yeah, this is meant to be the mid-year update, H1 update, which in fairness, you'll see in a second, has gone a bit better than I thought it would, but not as good as I was also thinking. It's kind of complicated. But yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, the stock market has done, like, I don't even know, it's been amazing this year, the Nigerian stock market at least, right? And I know that we crossed 100 trillion in January. I was buying a lot in January and February, but then I slowed down a bit. So what have I actually been buying? Let's start with Okomo. So Okomo and Presco, for the longest time on this channel, I've always said, these guys are going to pay my kids' school fees at some point, right? So I had set out a target of 500 for Okomo, 600 for Presco, and right now, 310 for Okomo, 481 for Presco. So for Okomo, I think I added what? Well, I'm targeting to add more in H2 because the price is coming down a little bit, right? Earlier on in the year, I saw the prices and I was like, there's no way I'm going to buy something from 400 and then average upwards at 2,300 or at 1,800. So I just decided to leave it for a bit. I did get a little bit of Presco though, because I was just trying to make sure that the dividends this year made sense. More on that in a second. The next one was UACN, which in fairness to UACN has done actually, they've done quite well, right? So last year, they acquired Chi, which was one of the reasons I went long on the stock because I knew that, the synergies would be good. It's done pretty decent so far, right? But I think they could do a little bit better. But yeah, we're at 3,000 units for that at an average of 64 naira. And next, we'll move into the banks. So on the banking side, the problem I had with this portfolio was that for the people who do data analytics, right, I did more like a selection sort kind of thing instead of like a bubble sort. So not to bore you, what that means is basically I decided to start buying out my smaller units that were my targets, right? So the cheaper targets to achieve, I started out the year trying to clear those with the aim that by end of Q1, I would focus on the much heavier units, right? The problem that I had was that the market moved against me because the market was moving so fast. I think year to date as at June was 50%, which is insane, right? And just let me even jump here real quick. So if you notice, my price target at the beginning of this year, I wanted to just invest 3 million naira. As at today, so I've invested 2 million naira and I still have 2.1 million naira left, which is crazy because when I initially set out my plan, I was only meant to invest 3 million naira, right? So the same units, but because of the pricing change, right now I have like a long way to go. But yeah, because of that, Access Bank, I was able to clear my targets. I wanted 10,000 units. I've gotten 10,000 units, a little bit extra, 111. Average price has gone up to 23 naira. Not bad, really. Same thing with Fidelity. I wanted 10,000. That was the target at the beginning of the year. But now, good news. We're on 12,000, which I think is, it's not too bad. It's good progress. 2,000 above target, which is not bad at 1960. But Fidelity and Access are very long-term stocks for me, right? So Access Bank, as you know, is Nigeria's largest bank by deposits, by balance sheet and all that. But my problem is Access Bank has been undervalued for 3-4 years now. At some point, you guys need to remember you're a bank, right? But the good thing is there's been a shake-up. If I remember clearly, I think there was a change in directors. I think, I'm not sure, at least as at the time of making this video, which is the end of H1, so 28th of June, right? Yeah, moving on. I think the main thing that I have focused on really this year is GT. The reason for that is because obviously it's GT Bank, right? Good dividends, Nigeria's most efficient bank. And it's another bank that I'm thinking, long term, this is what I would hold. This is also a good time to say that this entire portfolio is long only. So what that means is there's no plan to sell anything. Literally everything I'm holding here, I'm holding for, as long as. Mostly because I've left Nigeria. So right now I wouldn't say I really need Naira liquidity per se. And also because I have a long-term goal for this portfolio now. Initially, it started off again just to, talk to my friends, show them, okay, this is how you could help people who were just starting. But now, sometime end of last year, I realized, okay, I could actually take this seriously, right? And then just see how much it could make on its own and just keep going. Because again, like I said, there are a lot of people who are actually following this portfolio more than I am. In fact, I'm so sorry that this video has come so late because I got so many messages like, bro, what we doing, what we buying, how we doing it, and blah, blah, blah. So that's why we're back here. All in all, long story short, this is a long only portfolio. Again, that just means everything here we're buying, we're not planning to sell at any point. Unless we see like crazy profits and then we can, pull out. Let's see. So yeah, GTCO I added significantly. I had started the year at 4,017 units. But right now I'm on 11,380. The aim also is hopefully by next year at an average cost of 116 naira 55. Hopefully by next year, the dividends I would be making from GT should have meaning in dollar terms. Hopefully. My long-term guys also Jais. I'm not really adding much. The plan here was just to reinvest dividends, which have come in. Average cost at 2 naira 78, but I am up 200%. I'm up 200% on Jais, which is one of my better performers. My USCN as well, I am up 189%. Again, time in the market is better than time in, and also because this is very, very long term, right? So that's good. Cornerstone, this company I really like. So if you remember back in the day when Nigeria did one of the first things that Tinubu did was, this new insurance sector recapitalization, right? So because of that, I had looked at two insurance companies. One is in this portfolio, one is not, is in a different portfolio of mine. But the one in this portfolio is Cornerstone Insurance, right? And that's because they had a good balance sheet, they had a good, strategy. I believed in the business long term. And then I found out, I think they had like a meeting. Let me just pull up my notes 1 second. I think they had a meeting recently, which was really interesting. So they had said that they're unbundling the company into three different things. So they're moving out their life assurance business. They're acquiring one other company, I can't remember the name. And then, so they're now going to be more like Cornerstone Holdings with three subsidiaries, which again is testament to the fact that I always believed in them long term, right? So as a person, I have a strategy background, right? And I believe in companies that I believe in when companies say, okay, we're doing something for the long term. Obviously, I don't just blindly believe. I look at, the quality of the people in charge, what they've done so far, the market and all that stuff. And Cornerstone is, again, it's one of my long-term insurance sector bets, right? So I didn't really add much. In fact, at the start of this year, I didn't plan to add anything. But what kept happening was sometimes I would put out a bid for maybe like a GT, right? And I would have like 3,000 naira or 4,000 naira spare. And at the end of it, I'll be like, let me just buy Cornerstone because why not? Instead of just keeping 5K free in the account. So did that throughout the year so far, and I've managed to add 1,189 units. So, 102,230 units at 3 naira 21 kobo, which is not bad. And I think as at now, I'm up 81%. There was a bit of a correction in Cornerstone earlier this year. I'm not really sure why, but again, I'm not actively following the markets. Again, like I said, because this is a long only portfolio, so I tend to just have my targets, buy and wait, right? Moving on to my only healthcare sector, which is May Baker. Interesting company, actually. So I was looking at their numbers, and the numbers so far this year have been good. But the thing I did want to point out with Maybaker was that I was reading some excerpts and the management was talking about how there's rising costs, right? Especially power and cost of raw materials. So I'm a bit worried about that because yes, the exchange rate has stabled, but if the exchange rate has stabled, that means those costs are probably going to be priced in that range for like a long time, right? So let's see what keeps happening on that side. In this video, because I've not really been actively looking through the Nigerian stock market, right? I don't really have the exact numbers in my head. Normally I talk about, the growth and the percentage growth and all that, but I will do that in the next few weeks when everyone's H1 result is out. And then I'll probably make a follow-up video where I adjust my, outlook and my target units for the rest of the year. Mostly because I'm at an average completion rate of 97%. This was meant to be for the whole year, right? So if I've already done, 97% as a H1, like they say, you shoot for what do you even shoot for again? I think you shoot for the moon, aim, land on the stars, something like that. Basically, shoot high, aim high, and when you land slightly. So this has been good. 97% completion rate is not actually a bad place to be, in fairness, right? Next up, MTN. So at the start of the year, I set out a goal of just 300 units of MTN, right? But something crazy happened. So MTN swung around into 1.1 trillion in profits. Bro, wow, right? Like that one, it was one of the few numbers that like, because I have like this little bot that just gives me quick summaries, right? So when I saw that, I was like, yo, it's time to actually, go a little bit longer on MTN, right? I believe that the MTN story is if you were going to go long on Nigeria, you have to go long on MTN because their market size, what they plan to do. Now there's this thing where CBN is saying banks have to domicile their data in Nigeria. MTN is probably going to benefit a lot from that. The top line of revenue from data is growing, from calls is growing. They have the fintech. And the crazy thing is they recently acquired IHS Towers. Like, it's only up from here. In fact, I know that I plan to do another video where I would, talk about my new units, but my other portfolios, I am 100% tracking MTN. In fact, I'm long MTN now, right? The conviction I had on the palm oil sector 2 years ago is what I now have with data, right? In fact, some of my friends have been telling me, oh, you're a bit late to the party, but better late than never, right? So yeah, MTN, I had 300 units here, but as a target, but I've been able to double that ish. So I'm on 512 units at an average cost of 678 naira ish, which is not bad. As at today, I'm just up. This portfolio is up 22%, which I think is, quite impressive. But yeah, not financial advice, as I always say, but MTN is a company that I am 100% long on, right? 100%. NACO is here. So the story behind the NACO shares was I had a lot of NACO shares last year, but then I just, sold them so I could enjoy myself on my birthday. At that time, I wasn't taking this portfolio seriously, but now we sort of are. So yeah, we have 100 units to go. But the good thing is if I am correct, there was a 7 for 1 that NACO did. So this shouldn't be 400. This should be, or is it 1 for 7? So you got 1 unit extra for every 7 you had. So I need to follow up and find out, but I should have more than 400 right now. But yeah, I still have an outstanding of about 100 units for the year. And yeah, but all in all, my NACO, I am up 72%. Bearing in mind, I sold it at huge profits last year plus dividends, right? So it's quite a bit more than 72%, really. Computer Warehouse Group, I set out a target of 20,000 units. And right now, yeah, I've completed that at an average of 12 naira 23, and today we're up 64%. This is a stock that, again, that I had been shouting since it was 8 naira. Well, not shouting per se, but if you go back to earlier portfolio videos, that's another company I've been long on. Niche industry, growing market, very, 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 very sound company management. So yeah, Tantalizers, the baby of this portfolio. I don't know what it was, but if you remember, let me know in the comments. There was something about Tantalizers in February about somebody getting fined for something. I can't remember what it was, but yeah, that happened. Anyways, Tantalizers is a company that I'm long on. In fact, on a personal level, one of my dreams in life was to own 10% of Tantalizers. I'd been saying that for years, right? Tell me why I woke up sometime in, was it March or so, and Tantalizers had sold 10% of the company to some foodtainment something something for 2 billion naira. And I was like, some people are just living your dream, aren't they? But yeah, I'm long on Tantalizers. In fact, my Tantalizers is at least 2032 before I actually sell or do anything, right? So we have 30,000 units in this portfolio as an average cost of 2.94. That tells you since when I've been buying it, right? And I'm up 41%. Not bad actually. And this is as a close of market. Let me just be sure that these prices reflect, the latest stock prices. I think they should because I checked this yesterday before I started. But yeah, anyways, and my oil and gas play. So you will notice there is no Aradel in this portfolio. The reason for that is August last year, I made a video. POD was 800, now it's 511, but they've acquired more assets between then and now. So what are we looking at that can happen, right? Aradel started the year at 598, it's down. One of those portfolio videos just before I started taking it seriously, and I said I was going to go long on Aradel, right? And it was just 600 naira at the time. And I kid you not, right? I just forgot to, cause again, I just forgot to buy it. And by the time I was ready to buy Aradel this year, Aradel was at 1,000 something. And I was like, I was at the train station and the train left me. And I don't know if I'm going to run and catch the train at the next station, which is 1-4. But at this point, let's just wait and see, right? I might add some units if I see there's been a huge sell-off in June, which is good for me, right? I was able to add stuff. I'll more on that in a sec. But Aradel, I will probably hope for a 1-3 entry. If I can see 1-3, then I'm entering and I'll probably just buy my entire units for the year, hopefully, right? But yeah, I have outstanding 500. And then finally, my sterling units came in for the year. I did the rights issue last year and I just put some of them here again, just, as part of content for this portfolio. So I got 21,000 units at 7 naira, and I think, yeah, we're up 11%. But there was news about sterling. So I know that they finally crossed the 4 trillion naira mark for their balance sheet, which is fantastic. I feel like it's a bank people are not taking seriously. So I'm long on sterling because I feel like sterling is what GT was 10 or so years ago. They're in that same phase now, right? That's what I think. And I think in the long term, I believe in the management and all that. Some people have argued that, they don't really see the strategy extending beyond the current CEO, right? Which is fair, but I think that they're putting things in place for others for, significant growth. I might be wrong, but that's just my belief, and that's why I'm long sterling on this portfolio. Anyways, we are up, 11%. It's not been so bad, actually. So all in all, this year, I think I have added a total of 2 million naira, right, at an average of, what's the average? 362,000 naira per month in the first 6 months. I don't think that's particularly bad. April was my most, fruitful buying month. I added 700,000, mostly to UAC and Fidelity. My sterling allocation came in, so I just counted that, and CWG, GT, and MTN, right? So like I said, I'm really, really long on GT. So that's what I've really been buying a lot. So January I bought GT, and in June and end of May-ish. So the reason for June was there was a day that I noticed that GT just kept dipping. It was the day I think the market announced there was now a T+1, which means, you buy and everything settles in one day, which caused a little bit of friction because when you're buying at scale, you need to go to your custodians and all that. It's a long process, right? So I personally don't think Nigeria was ready to actually execute T+1, the banks at least, but let's see. But yeah, there was a day that, the CBN also announced there was a memo, I think, something about you now have to have 20% more capital if you're a holdco for the total of all your subsidiaries, which affected most of the banks because most of them are holdcos. I think barring Zenith, which for some reason is it's a stock I don't have in this portfolio, but I digress, right? So that affected GT, and I saw like some fantastic entry point at that point. So that was why I went and I just put all my money in that at the time. So it hasn't been a bad performance so far this year. Like I said, initially, as at January, my cost to target was 3 million naira. But as at today, I've already spent 2 million and I still have a 2.1 cost to completion. So that just tells you how far the market has moved, right? But Naira cost averaging, you just keep buying and buying and buying. But the thing is, I'm not buying blindly. I have a plan, right? And most of the plan has been completed. So if you look, before we even get into dividends, if you look at most of my plan, it's actually been completed, right? So most of it is green, units held, except, just a few that are outstanding, right? And I'm personally not too bothered. I think that with an average completion rate of 97% so far, I think that, yeah, I think I'm in a good place. I think I'm actually in a good place. I think by the end of summer, I would look through everybody's numbers and readjust and, look at where we can increase towards the end and where we can decrease. The downside though is on the dividend side. So I noticed, right, that most banks, CBN did not allow them pay dividends because they are trying to, I think, is reduce their forbearance and all those kind of things and their NPLs. So they were like I know UBA did not pay, Access didn't pay, Fidelity didn't pay, which was not so great, right? But so far, still, this year I have made 84,000 in dividends, right? And the breakdown was mostly Okomu paid us 4,000 naira, which was not bad. I got 2,700 from UACN, which was not bad. My major dividend source was GT. So in fact, it was even so funny because I noticed that now people are doing something like a happy GT dividend day, right? I'm not really on X anymore, but I kept getting screenshots of that, which was really funny. But yeah, GT paid us 11 naira 76. So shout out to Shegun, shout out to the management team. You guys are doing the best. And yeah, Maybaker 2340, MTN, again, another testament of how well they've gone, right? They swung around and gave us 15 naira, which was really fantastic. But because I was not in this particular portfolio, I didn't have that much MTN, so it wasn't really meaningful. NACO 22, and finally CWG 12,000, right? Because of the units I have. The good thing is, I think as at the time of making this, I'm not sure if, yeah, Presco hasn't paid. So that will come sometime later in the year, probably Q3. And Presco would come, I believe, Cornerstone would also come at some point. Again, I need to track that properly, but yeah, those two. All in all, though, it's not been a bad year dividend-wise, right? So last year, the whole portfolio I had last year, throughout the year, Q1 to Q4, I earned 96,000 in dividends at a return of 3%, right? The whole portfolio return 3% dividend yield. But this year, at least from Q2 alone, I have made 84,000 naira, right? Which is, about what, 80% of what I made last year, which is good. And then you also have to bear in mind that Access, Fidelity, they did not pay dividends this year. And if I'm correct, Jai's Bank paid dividends, but I have not tracked my dividends properly. Let me know in the comments. I'm not sure. I think that should be here. So that should even be way more, which is, quite good. So that means I'm probably at about maybe 85, 86,000 from dividends. It's not bad, but again, in dollar terms, which I'm now thinking, it's not the greatest, but it's something, right? It's good store of capital. And the good thing is the Naira is appreciating as well. So as long as money is not really moving from dollar to Naira, for me, I'm good. If it's just Naira and is appreciating, then that's also really good, at least looking at it from a dollar side. But all in all, yeah, that is where the portfolio is right now. We have invested 2 million naira this year. We have achieved most of our goals, actually. Again, like I said, I used a selection sort, so I sorted out the smaller ones. Most people will tell you to use like a windfall where you sort out the big ones, then you solve the small ones, but hey, right? So I still have outstanding, I still have my GT to complete. I still have my Presco and Okomo to complete. And at some point, if I see good entries, I will probably do Aradel, right? And a final note, because I got a lot of messages about this in the past. you might not see a Dangote refinery here, not because I'm not interested per se, but because I have goals to meet. So I don't have spare money to put there, right? And it's simply just that. It's a very fantastic, initiative, but you have to look at personal finance personally. I had set out these goals in January, right? And yes, I can adjust and move around in some cases, but right now, until I meet my targets, I don't have spare money to put into IPOs, right? So that's just a word on that. But yeah, all in all, thank you guys as always, and shout out to the people who keep messaging me to drop this, because I know I actually totally forgot about this actively, but now my eyes are back on this, at least for the next few months, probably till the end of the year, and I will see how far we can actually go. There's been a lot of news in the Nigerian market, right? And let me see if I can even find any just before I go that was really interesting. Um, okay, yeah, so Access had retired, Bolaji Agbede, as I mentioned earlier, which maybe that shakeup might be part of the CBN, new regulations, but I don't know. Let's hope Uncle Ig has, long-term plans there. I believe in him 100%. Aradel's balance sheet looks good. Some people are not impressed because they feel there's not enough synergies. I agree with that, but it's still on the list. At least, even if I didn't get to 600, if I get it at 1.3 or 1.2, it's still, a good position to be in. And I think that's about it. So I will catch you guys probably later on when I'm able to sit down, look through everyone's numbers, and then redo my targets for the second half of the year. I just wanted to make sure that I had this video ready for H1. This might be one of the longer sides of the finance videos I do. Apologies for that if it's too long. Just watch on 1.5x. But yeah, this is where we are with the portfolio right now. Let me know in the comments what you're buying, how well you've done so far, what you're holding, and all that kind of good stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one. And as I always say, it's never too late to start investing in the Nigerian stock market. Okay, so feel free to start now. If you want the Excel, the link is in the description. As always, shout out to the people who have bought it. Thank you so much. Thank you for the referrals as well. And if you're interested, feel free. There's a link in the description. Like, share, send this to all your friends just starting their investing journey. I think it might help. And see you guys in the next one. Peace.